Hello, friends and enemies, heroes and villains. Welcome to Epic Realms. Today's guest is an award winning audiobook narrator with over 400 titles to her name. She is also an actor, singer, author, producer, and so much more. Andrea Emmes, welcome to Epic Realms. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited about today. I was telling you, like, I love having audiobook narrators on because it's so many cool stories, and it's sometimes just this shift for what we talk about and how the stories work. But at the same time, there's so many cool tie-ins to the world of authors, of course, obviously. And now you've got your book out, which we're going to talk about here later on today. So I really do appreciate you being on here, and I'm very excited to hear your story and how you got to be where you are.
Let's talk.
So, as an audiobook narrator, it's safe to say you do a little bit of reading, right?
A little, a little.
When you were younger, did you do a lot of
Mhm.
reading? Did you grow up as like a little kid, like voraciously
Oh
reading,
yeah.
or were you like the get me away from those books? I want to go outside and play.
Oh no, no, no. I was a massive reader. I started reading when I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah. So my mom says. I don't have memory of that,
Right.
but yeah. I mean, I used to have and we moved around a lot, but I have a memory when we were living in Tennessee, the hall closet, all of the shelves to where I could reach were just books. And I remember sitting on the floor and just pulling the books and sitting there in front of the closet just reading.
That's awesome. What did you have any favorites growing up? Any favorite books that you look back and you're like, I loved that book?
Ooh, well, very big fan of choose your own adventure kinds of books.
Okay.
Used to have the whole series. I'm mad I don't have them anymore. I wish I kept them. Um, and there was a lot like with Judy Blume or Nancy Drew kind of stories, but then also I liked Stephen King. I remember reading Misery in like one sitting. Um, and I liked a lot of I'm trying to think of what like the equivalent of like Harry Potter would have been when I was a kid. And I can't Lion the Witch of the Wardrobe
Okay.
or Lord of the Rings.
Those are great. Great stories. Either way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I've read them several times over. And the Harry Potter series, which I very much enjoyed as an adult.
Did your parents like enjoy the fact that you were a reader?
Well, yeah, I mean, both my mom and my biological dad loved reading. My stepfather was more of a sports guy,
Okay.
but very much enjoyed reading, yeah, like newspapers, like current events and nonfiction-y kind of things. But when it came to like fiction and especially with fantasy or magic and just going to another world, it was definitely my parents brought their love of books and gifted that to me. And especially with my dad, like he and I share a lot of like the criminal thriller-esque kind of stuff, like what Jeffrey Deaver writes, or Dan Brown,
Okay.
or Clive Cussler, or or if you want to go like Jim Butcher, which is more of the fantasy, which the Harry Dresden Files is amazing.
Yes, agreed.
Um, and then my mom was definitely into um I would say she actually had a big range too. I remember like reading whether it would be Little Women or reading some Nora Roberts. My grandmother, she had in her basement thousands of paperbacks.
Oh wow.
Um, so we're a big
Okay.
reading family.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you went into school then, was that like, hey, I'm gonna go into school and like I can already read everything. I don't need you. Or was it one of those things where you went in and you're like, don't tell me what to read?
No, no, I never had an attitude or anything like that. But I do remember I don't remember what they were called, but there was like this special reading program we had when I was in elementary school. And there were like different colors or different sections, and you would once you got through one, then you would go to the next level and you just keep going through the levels. And I was like a couple levels ahead of everybody in my class. So my teacher used to just put me off to the side and go, read whatever you want in the order. And then she would just have everybody else do the ones prior.
Gotcha. I used to have the things where when you read, you get these like little fuzzy guys that you could have little sticky feet and you can put on your books or whatever.
Yes, and the little googly eyes.
Yeah, the little googly
Yes.
eyes. Yep,
Oh my
for
gosh, I
sure.
haven't thought of them in forever. Yeah. Or going to the library and you'd see them in the little pens. And one of my favorite things when I was a kid is when they would do those like the fundraisers and you'd have to pick all kinds of books. And they'd have this I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 pages where you could, like, look through all these different books and you'd check it off, and then I think the library in the school would be, like, a fundraiser for something, I can't remember. It was, like, Christmas, 'cause, like, "What am I" and you only get 5, Andrea, "Okay." Oh, it's fun. I made a game out of it.
Well,
It was fun.
they should have had the Columbia House, but for books, where it's like 1 cent and you get 10 books.
That would've been amazing. Yeah, and I fell victim to the Columbia House as well for the music, or the DVDs or the
Yeah,
VHS
or
back
any of
then,
the
yeah,
stuff, right?
or any of this stuff, yeah.
Did you struggle anywhere in school growing up? Or were you pretty good across the board?
No, I was not pretty good across the board. Um, I would say math is definitely my toughest. I'm good at, like, English and art and, I guess science to an extent, unless you have to get into start like, the
The math,
mathematicsy
right?
kind of a
That's me.
thing.
Me
The
too.
math
Me
part,
too.
like, so that was always a big struggle. Even now I'm like, thank God these phones have calculators because now I feel awful though, because I should know how to like do simple math in my head,
Right?
but I don't anymore. I don't know what happened to me. I guess I just really don't use it that much anymore because we're so inundated with the tools now. But
Right.
yeah, math. I mean, I was never like a C or a D student. I always did very well in school, A's and B's, maybe a couple C's. But yeah, math is not something I was very good at. And I would say history I was okay, or civics or social studies. But remembering dates, I guess go with numbers. Was I always get confused on like, wait, which the war was in which day? I don't remember.
Right.
I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Numbers. Numbers.
Numbers, man.
At what point did video games come into your purview? Were you younger at the time, or like around what age were you when
Oh,
that started to come in?
I'm gonna date myself.
That's okay. I'm right there with
Um,
you.
so well, yeah. If you remember the
I
little
remember the
flip.
little, yeah, exactly.
So Gen X?
Yeah.
Gen
Gen
X.
X.
Gen X, me too. So, started off, I've been a lifelong gamer from board games to card games. And then I had a Commodore 64. And then I remember my first game I remember playing was Zork.
Okay.
It was like the text game.
Okay.
It was just text and into this like really massive computer monitor with like the actual floppy disk that's three and a half
Yeah.
whatever they call it,
The
and
ones that actually
the
were floppy.
they were actually floppy, and they were massive, and you were like, "Oh my gosh, this holds so much content."
Right.
But so I got started in that, but I mean, um, when you're a kid, you play like Hungry Hungry Hippos or all those little kid games,
Right.
but I feel like I really got like Monopoly was my like favorite board game for like ever. And it still is, but nobody wants to play it because it's so long, but I love it. But then I mean, I've gone through like the Sega and the Game Boy and like the NES and the you name it. I've gone through all the systems, and my husband and I have a PS5 now. So I've just been gaming my whole life in various different realms, and then also too, my husband and I like to play Magic the Gathering, which he is way better at it than I am, but I do like it. But it's the strategy and the
Yeah.
math. Sometimes I'm like, wait a second, how much did you kill me?
What's the
No, I have a
order in
point.
which
That's
you
okay.
have to do your things?
Yeah. Well, I used to write notes and go so I wouldn't forget. It's embarrassing, but I'm like, it is what it is. But yeah, no, my husband's a master strategist and just plays that cold. But he got me into that. And it's super fun. Um, so yeah, games, man, love
Games
them,
from all the way
and not
back.
just the consoles, yeah, but even like Steam or before it was. Um, wasn't there another one?
There's
Or am
all
I like,
kinds of them. There's so
there's
many
all
now.
kinds,
There's so
there's
many
so
now.
many. You get the picture. I
Right.
like games.
Well, at what point did you decide, hey, I wanna go to school for video games?
Funny story. Not funny. Um, so it's going to be a slight longer wind up to get to there.
Okay, let's wind it up.
Okay. So sit back, have a cookie. So I've been a performer professionally since I was 19.
Okay.
So that was like over 25 years ago. And be it on stage, like musical theater or at Walt Disney World or Universal Studios or, Vegas, cruise ships and all kinds of things. A little
Okay.
bit of film and TV, but just almost every genre, recording artist. But then in the middle of a stunt show, a live stunt show, like it's called Pirates Dinner Adventure, but it was like a medieval times esque, but pirates. Um, the stunt went bad and I got hurt.
Oh.
And this was in 2006. Finished the show, even though I couldn't walk. The pirates just kind of carried me around the stage. Um, and thought it was just a really bad sprain and contusion. But anyway, fast forward several months, and the pain would just not go away. And that was when I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome type 1,
Okay.
otherwise known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Simpler, neurological pain disorder that's chronic. And it just wiped me out. I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand, I couldn't. Sometimes the air would hurt. So, needless to say, all of that performing, everything that I was doing was just done. And so, after, a long time of going through surgeries and, hospitals and therapies and all kinds of thing, I'm like, okay, now what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I'm like
Right.
33 maybe.
Okay.
So, and I'm like,
So you're
I
doing the
need to.
acting thing before all of this.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Since, yeah, forever. And so I'm like, well, crap, I got to figure something out, but something that I can actually do, but it has to be sedentary. It'd be great if I could do it at home, but we'll just see what we could do. So anyway, um, I found a program for game art and design at a college in North Hollywood, and I'm like, oh, why don't I look into trying to be a game designer? Maybe, you know.
Right.
So I like, well, at least let me go back to college and I'll get a degree because I wasn't quite ready to jump back into the workforce yet anyway, because I was still going through a bunch of stuff. I just had like a spinal cord stimulator put in my back to help with the functionality and the pain management and all this stuff. So I'm like, well, let's do that. So that's what got me into uh, college for game art and design. And it was because honestly, there was like, I didn't want to be a secretary. I
Right.
did, there's only so many sedentary things you can do, and I'm crap at numbers as we have
Yeah.
discussed. So
Yeah.
accountants out of the or bookkeeper, I can't do that. So I'm like, what can I do? So that's how that kind of all came about. And so from 2009 to 2012, I got my bachelor's of science in 2012, and then I had gone to like this job fair, and I had met with a bunch of people and putting your resumes out or whatever, and I met with Disney Interactive, and and I'm a huge Disney fan, even
Right.
besides having worked there for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Um, and they called me for a internship. And actually, before that, I was doing like production coordinator
Okay.
for this like Bento Box Interactive, which we're doing like a games on a Nook.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you remember
The
the
Nook.
Barnes and Noble Nook,
Yes.
and that was just a short contract. And then when they called me, it was a 3-month internship. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, please. So that's kind of how that started. And for me, like, I'm not a coder,
Right.
surprise, but
Numbers.
I numbers. There's a theme. But like, and I'm not the best artist, but for me, I'm more of like the level design or the narrative content writer.
Right.
And that's what I did at Disney Interactive. And so, that was so cool. I was so ready for that, like, to be my life. But tech is very volatile. And I was up in I had to go up to Silicon Valley. I had to go to Palo Alto which is maybe an hour away from San Francisco.
Okay.
And because that's where the headquarters there is. They had one down here where I live in Southern California. I was like, oh, yay, it's just down the street. They're like, no, 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 we need you to go north. I'm like, okay. And yeah, so that's how I became an associate game designer for a couple of years.
That's nice.
It was cool.
Did
It was
you, so
cool.
since you were acting and stuff, did you go to school for acting as well, or was that like straight out of high school you were already doing stuff?
Yes. I when you say like school, like I didn't go to like Juilliard or AMDA or any of those like institute. I wish. Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. But I have been taking acting classes,
Okay.
um, even to this day, since uh 16, 15 years old, I'd say. And I started doing theater. I mean, I did theater like since I was in elementary school,
Right.
but like really getting into it, excuse me, in junior high, and especially musical theater. And then eventually I was at the Trinity Arts Center, which is the community arts theater in Providence, Rhode Island, which is where I went to the latter half of my um, pre-college school years. Um, and so I would take dance classes and acting classes there, which was really awesome. And that was more geared towards theater.
Yeah.
But then as you're learning to like do different lanes, when I say lanes, whether it's like theater is one lane, TV is another lane, audiobooks is, they all have different techniques,
Right.
right? I mean, there's always like a basis where you can start like, okay, am I going to be a Meisner or a Stanislavski or a it is what it is, whatever that means to you kind of place. But there's different ways that you use the acting skills that you have based on the different mediums that you're working with.
Right. And also like music, dance, all that kind of stuff is
Right.
all like, because if you're doing West Side Story, that's a lot different than doing like a non-musical, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got to integrate the music and the storytelling and the movements to help tell the story. Whereas if there's
Yeah.
not that part, then you're telling the story in a completely different manner, or different from a comedy per se, a comedy show. So yeah, it's a lot of different things. And then of course the director's like, I want this line to be delivered in a funny way instead of in a serious way. Okay, that's your interpretation of this story. And so you have to deal with all that kind of stuff. So yeah, totally understand. But I was very curious about that because I wasn't sure if the gaming stuff came first or if the acting stuff came first, because usually most people think college immediately out of high school.
Right. Well, I had gone to college back right after high school, which for me was in 93. And I went to college. I went to University of Tampa for my freshman year, and I was fine arts. And back then I wanted to be an artist. I was
Right.
okay. I realized later I wasn't at the level you need to be, especially after working in animation. I'm like, whoa, yeah, that's not me.
Yeah.
But I, I I'm decent enough, and my mom was an artist. And but I mean, and then it was just mostly general classes anyway. You got 2 years before you really got to figure out what you want to do. And so I had gone for my freshman year to college, and then life happened, and then I ended up moving to Orlando. I had to drop out of college because life, and I started working at Disney World almost right away, and I was in the entertainment department, and so that was actually how it all started with the professional aspect of me beginning to sing, dance, act. Um, because, like, the community theater, I was getting paid for that. That was just
Right.
amazing training ground, right?
Yeah.
But, like, my first, like, paying gig was Walt Disney World, and that was
Which is
pretty
great.
cool. Yeah, and then it just evolved from there, and then you just start taking dance classes and acting classes. So then it became like, um, the college of freelance teachers, or maybe you take a 6 week course in voiceover, or you study at this one dance studio and you just constantly taking dance classes. And so it became more of like that kind of classes instead of an in a institute kind of a
Right.
institutional kind of place.
Yeah.
And even if you did go to Juilliard, which I have plenty of friends who I know have gone in like the top of the line acting classes, they are still taking classes now.
Right.
Maybe not like from Juilliard, but like they're still taking like an improv class or a drama class or really or like in audiobooks, I want to fine tune my um character voices or I I only just started doing horror, which is so exciting because I don't really have a voice for horror, but
Yeah.
I've done some YA horror. But you have to come at it different storytelling wise.
Yeah.
So I'd take a class or that's like just like a couple hours so you're always training. And even Dustin Hoffman said he's like I still take class
Yeah.
and he's Dustin Hoffman.
Right. Right. Well, and musicians, same thing. This is all the singers. Every singer out there is like, yeah, I'm Ariana Grande, and I still have a singing coach that I see every
Yep.
week. That's wait,
Yeah.
what? Singing coaches
Well,
have singing coaches.
they really do. I mean, and if you think about it too, it's like for acting, it's not just your brain and your emotional state and the psychology of things and getting a lot cerebral, but it's also your full body instrument. And
Hmm.
obviously, as a singer, your instrument here is you want to make sure you're staying healthy, you're keeping your range. As you age, your voice kind of changes, so you've got to readjust. Where am I now? Oh, let me fine tune it to where I can keep it open, or whatever. Or if you're playing the guitar, well, I'm not quite Stevie Vai yet. I want to get to that point, or Hendrix. I think it's Stevie Vai,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Steve
Like
Vai.
the Steve Vai. That's what it
I
is.
gotcha. I
Steve
gotcha.
Steve Vai. So you want to just keep plugging at it, and I think that's just the artist. Same thing with visual artists.
Right.
They're constantly going to. I remember my husband and I would every week would go to life drawing classes. Just to keep honing the skills because it is true. If you don't use it, you lose it
Yeah.
to an extent.
Was there anything you worked on when you were acting in Disney that you then later got to work on video game wise?
Uh, say that again.
When you were performing for Disney,
Hmm.
and then later
Yeah.
you went and did video game stuff for Disney, was there anything
Hmm.
that you're like, hey, I worked on this, at this studio or at this area in Disney World as a performer?
I think I'm okay. So I have a little OCD. So sometimes my brain processes things a little literally. So I'm struggling with
All right. So
where you're at.
you're acting
So
for Disney.
yeah, 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 yeah. So are you saying when I was at the
When you
the
were
the
doing
game
video
that
games, did you work on anything video game wise? Like, hey, I did Peter Pan on stage, and now I'm doing Captain Hook on the video
God
game.
bless you. I am so with you now. Thank you.
No problem.
Um uh Sort of, yes, because when I was at Disney, I was, she says in quotation marks, very good friends with Ariel,
Okay.
amongst many other Disney characters I was very good friends with.
Yeah.
Um, and Ariel and I used to sing together. So I worked on this really cool. So I was in the not in the like the Infinite Disney Infinity console game, but I was in mobile.
Okay.
And so I was working on a game called Hidden Worlds, which was so cool. Super cool. Oh my God, I geeked out so hard. But so like I'll back up, sorry. Um it was a snow globe game, like meaning like in the sense of um when you're so many different Disney movies were represented, and so you're having to you started, let's say, Beauty and the Beast world, and it's feels like a snow globe, and that's kind of how we set it up. Like there's this really nice base, and then you got to open up different sections, and you're going through the whole story, right? But it exists on its own little snow globe. I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
think of it other
Yeah.
word, right? Island. That's the word I'm looking for. And then maybe like Frozen will be next, or Little Mermaid, or Lion King, or we go through so many, and so we covered like a ton of different films. So yes, to answer your question, because I was very good friends, again, she says with
Air
quotation
quotes.
marks.
Yeah.
If you can maybe infer why I'm doing that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, Okay.
I can.
uh,
Hopefully, the audience listening and watching can understand that the air quotes, because
Google it.
Disney is the way they are. There we go.
Just Google it. You'll find it. So yeah, so I worked on a whole bunch of stuff like that, which is really neat. And one of the cool things working on Hidden Worlds, okay, so there was a bunch of different like mechanics, game mechanics, like crafting and resource management, and a lot of grinding for that resource management, but also hidden object scenes. And I created along with the my producer, and then also like these amazing artists, the 3D excuse me, the hidden object scenes within a like a cell from each film, or multiple cells, a frame. And but then I was also a narrative content writer. So I was writing all the um quest dialogue.
Okay.
There was another game designer who was writing like all like the story exposition, or like the interstitial uh, um, animations that would give a little bit more of like the world building of the characters. Elisa took care of that, but then I dealt with whenever you'd say meet and talk to Belle, and then you'd see the little bubbles.
Yeah.
And so I was technically a Disney writer. So because I would
Which
have to
is
take
exciting.
this. Oh my God. Take the script. Sorry, I'm getting way too excited.
That's all right.
This is the best part of my job. I'd take the script, and I have like almost every Disney film before streaming existed. I have the DVDs,
Yeah.
and
Or
so
VHS for us Gen Xers.
exactly, exactly, which ain't worth nothing. But and I was also the Disney lore expert, and because like I knew like Beast's human name was Adam, or like so many different
Right.
things, so they would always come to me. So I was the one who was just the nerd, which is funny at Disney Interactive, but I was like, that's part of the reason why they hired me,
Great.
I was told. And so I would watch the film again, make a bunch of notes based on the different things we were looking for and what kind of different like art assets we might need, or different scenes or whatever. And but then I would go through to find the little script points that would make sense for the story beats in the game, and then not really rewrite them, but sort of rewrite them to where, because you can't do the like monologues or anything, so it
Right.
would truncate things down, keeping it in line with the way the script has it, and then be able to fit into our game, because people gamers, we rage quit. I don't want to read X X
Yep.
X
Yep.
X
Skip.
X,
Skip.
you know,
Skip.
skip skip skip, you know, which I'm sure people do anyway. So you got to try to make it as concise as possible. But then I would send my script to the writers of whether it was over at Disney Animation here in Burbank, or well, I personally wouldn't. My producer would, but they would be sent to or over at Pixar, and they would approve my script. And then I remember being brought to like Pixar, and meeting with the people who wrote Brave and who wrote Finding Nemo, and having a meeting about, well, we're going to do this world, and here's the things, and giving us all stuff. Oh my God, it was so cool. And then I saw Frozen in storyboard form, in rough storyboard form.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, because we were planning to do Frozen, and when you do games, especially for mobile, we were already like a year out, like with all of our different upgrades. So like you plan so far ahead, and then you tweak live as you
Yeah.
see once you launch. And so we're like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do for yada yada for next year. Well, let's send you down to Burbank and have you meet with the Frozen team, watch the film in storyboard, and then you can ask the writers and the producers whatever questions you have, and then we'll give you the script, and then
There you go. You're off to the
there you
races.
go. So cool. I was like, yeah, if this is my job, yeah.
Yes.
I had a blast. Oh, I had such a blast. I was so bummed. Um, because especially too, excuse me, you were talking about dryness when we were before we started. I'm in my recording booth, and it can get kind of dusty.
Yeah.
So I think I just swallowed some dust.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll live. Um, uh especially, like, I had to, like, give up all my performing 'cause of my pain disorder, and I
Right.
physically couldn't do any I could barely walk or stand for very long, right? And without being in immense pain. So I'm like, if this is what I'm gonna be doing, oh, I can get on board with this and be super happy because I loved my previous life and
Right.
job. So I was like, this is what a gift right out of college. Nobody really gets that. And so I was just like super grateful. But then unfortunately,
Life.
people close life. So the gaming industry is so volatile. Tech is very volatile. Lots of layoffs, and I survived the first layoffs at Disney Interactive, but then they shut down like um, most of my department. Then I got laid off, and then they closed all of Disney Interactive. And then I was like, well, now what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And I was only like a couple years because I'm like,
You just
oh
got
man, you could have
started.
couldn't have let me get in 10 years? And it was hard too because since I was such a noob in, game design I was only associate, right?
Right.
It was so difficult to get another job. I had amazing interviews all over the place, but so did all of my senior game
Right.
designers who were laid off with me,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh, we love what you did at Disney Interactive, and we love what you're talking about. If only you had a few more years experience." I'm like so I couldn't win for trying.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, "Okay, well, now what? Because I can't go to college again." And, uh, and then my brilliant husband, he who I think he was working at Google at the time, I can't remember. He's worked at almost all of, like, Google, Apple, Facebook. He's gone all over the place.
Okay.
And, he's like, well, he was listens to audiobooks during the day, when he's, just
Right. Because you got to use your brain somehow.
yeah, and when he's head down and whatever, and he's like, "Why don't you get your voiceover stuff and look into audiobooks?" I'm like and I was still on severance. So I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea."
Yeah.
You know? And, because I can do voiceovers sitting down. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, it's not like you just plug in and play and start and you're just rolling in money. It
Right.
does not
Exactly.
work that way.
No.
Most people think it does though, you'll be surprised to hear. But yeah, but that's the order, right? So, exciting gaming stuff. Because I lost that job, that's how I stumbled into audiobooks, and I that was 12 years ago, and
Yeah.
I've never been happier. So
What was it like? So you go through it, you get your stuff, and you kind of get started out audiobook narrating. What was it like getting that first book? Like
mm,
because you used ACX, right?
yes. Yeah.
What was that like being like, hey, we've got a book for you, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this book, and how was that for you to finally get that first one and go? Were you like, I can do this? I'm very excited, or were there challenges?
Yes to all.
Okay.
Um, okay, so for those who don't know, ACX, which is owned by Amazon, which also owns Audible, ACX is the audiobook exchange. So it's like an indie author marketplace. So you have for anyone who's an author, indie author, independent author, can create an ACX account that's for the rights holders or the author side. And then as narrators, we create a narrator account. And so the authors will put up all of their books that they want up for audition, and there's a lot of parameters and things they talk about and price ranges as far as like how much what their budget is
Right.
or whatever, along with I know want a female or a male or this accent or whatever. uh, o- um and then for us, most of the time it's the narrators going to the biggest flea market you've ever seen where you're just like, you know how when you go to a flea market and it's just so packed and
Yep.
you're a little overwhelmed and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much. How do I narrow things down? So you spend a lot of time looking through. I mean, you can filter, I want young adult because I understood and I had taken classes and I
Yeah.
went into coaching for narration. First coach was Steve. Oh my gosh, Sean, I'm so sorry. Sean Pratt. Um, and incredible coach and narrator and friend. And um, so I'm like, okay, well, I understand how to sell my voice because I know where it lives. So what stories that would make the most sense? Back then, especially like horror is not going to work, or
Right.
most of the time I'm not going to be as believable as like a 40 or 50-year-old woman, regardless of my real age, because my voice sounds so young. So I'm like, okay, well, I can do a filter. Okay, young adult or kids books, or or age ranges, like, oh, I could hit 30. That is believable, and whatever. Um and I only want books in this kind of accent or whatever, whatever. And then it shortens makes the books that are going to be looking at smaller, so you're
Okay.
not
Yeah.
as like
Yeah. It narrows down the field.
60,000 books. Yeah, but even then it can be a lot. So for me it was figuring out, like, and then I was in a closet right before I got my professional booth. And like, the one of the challenges, especially, is like getting. I already had the mic. I already had, basically, equipment wise, I was all set. But it was understanding, because you have to be a part editor as well. You have to learn editing, but
Yeah.
not to like the full extent where sound engineers need to do it. But there is a level of sound editing that you have to do in real time as you're narrating. So I had to learn, what the heck is a DAW? Oh, digital audio workspace. What does that mean? So, okay, great. What kind of specs, and how do I get that done? And I would hire some techies. I'm like, can you please help me with getting things ready? And then figuring that aspect, and basically, patting your head while you're rubbing your tummy.
Right.
And so that in itself, I mean, I wish I could redo so many of my early books, only because my sound was like that, you know, very, very tinny. But that's just, and I would say, anyone who wants to be a narrator, figure that out first before you look for your first book and do an audition, because you'll thank me later, because I wish I did. Um, but so once you like find a bunch of books, they're like, oh, okay, here's like five I want to audition for. You do the audition, you submit it, and then you cross your finger and you just wait. And so, oh, what was the first book I ever did? Can't remember.
There's only
That was
400 plus, I mean, you should know every
Yeah.
single one of them in numerical order.
I know one of the earliest books
Yeah,
I've done.
yeah,
It's in the top. It's in the first three, and that's "The Lie" by Ashley Fontaine, whom we'll talk about a little bit more
yeah,
in a bit. So she's an incredible writer. Holy cow! And you don't always get that lucky. And you're kind of, the ACX is the wild, wild west. You've got brand new writers who are still figuring their stuff
yeah.
out, to like really, really, oh my gosh, why aren't you famous authors, right?
Right.
Um,
And
so
same
you
for
never
audio
know.
people too.
Same for audio people too, right? So, you just crush, and usually the audition, you never really know if that's truly representative, which is only like 5 minutes long, or so, maybe 3 to 4 pages. So you don't know if that's really representative of the whole book. I mean, sometimes authors might uh do really good on, let's say, like the first couple chapters, and you're like, "Oh, okay, oh my god, this book's gonna be good." And then somehow it just like turns into, what happened? Why didn't you were so much better in the first few chapters? It kind of just falls apart. So you never really know what you're gonna get. And I
Yeah,
would say for narrators as well. Same
yeah,
with air,
yeah.
because your audition could be like chef's kiss, and then you're like, you do the book and you're like, oh,
That's not
that's
what I
not what I
wanted.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, um, so yeah, so Ashley was like, "You've got the job," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so exciting!" I was so thrilled. Oh, Broken Skies by Teresa Kay. That was the first audiobook I
Okay.
ever did.
Nice.
Another amazing writer. Lucked out. Um, and uh, and then my third audiobook was Get Inside Her, which is not what it sounds like. It's by Marnie by Marnie Kinrys. It was I'm trying to remember what the rest of the little subtitle was, but she's like a professional female wingwoman. So
Okay.
she would help men understand how to properly date women, instead of the whole PCU pickup artist negging crap.
Yeah.
So, but it has a provocative title. So those were the first three audiobooks. So, and they were all so different. One was young adult, one was kind of Christian apocalyptic,
Okay.
and then the third was nonfiction about dating. And it was so exciting, but it was scary, because you're like, wow, those are three very different places to go.
Right.
Um, and so figuring out how to analyze the book. I mean, listen, we're all been readers since we were little, but to really bring your comprehension into a different realm where you're like, now I have to look at it from what is the author trying to say? What are you trying to
Right.
get the listeners to feel? Where is the tension? How to, this is where the acting skills really help. Now, there's a whole bunch of narrators who don't come from acting background who become an actor,
Yeah.
and there can be some of the best narrators you've ever heard in your life, but they worked at it, right? But some people just they just know how to tell a good story, and then when you add on training, holy cow. But having the background that I had had for the last 20 something years or whatever really helped me be able to get to those places and find them. And having done voiceover before helped, but then figuring out, okay, doing video game and animation voiceover is way different than audiobooks.
Yeah.
Cause like, oh God, my first characters, because in animation you'd be like, "Oh my God, it's so exciting!" You have to be like really like on crack or something.
Right.
It's very very animated, very hyper. But in audiobooks, you have to be more in the video game realm of more realistic,
Yeah.
right? And you're talking to people right inside their ear.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm come from theater, so I'm used to like reaching the back of the house, so I'm
Yeah.
always too loud. So, and plus, I'm loud as it is, and I'm from Rhode Island, which we're very loud people. I don't know, and I'm Italian. I'm just a loud. Everything about me is loud. So I had to learn to like cheat the mic and really figure out different ways to to make the characters believable, even if it's in a cartoon-esque kind of um,
Right.
kids book, but yet. So that was a challenge that I had early on, and also my male voices sucked. Oh, they were bad in the beginning. So and I found that out wonderfully through reviews, which you should really never read your reviews because it just kills your self-esteem.
Right.
Um, but it was helpful because they're like, man, I love her, but her male voices were terrible. I'm like, great, where's my coach? And then I just started working on finding the musicality. It helped that I was a singer, so I'm like, "Oh, I'll just take it a half step down, or I'll, you know, um, change the pacings and the timbre is gonna go a little bit different like this, or I can go to the back of my throat or up into my front palate and this."
Yeah.
So having all that back, um, the years that I have had as a singer and a performer really helped me transition, I think, into audiobooks a lot easier. But one of the things that was also difficult with ACX, and ACX was like for me my college years
Right.
of audiobooks because I did everything wrong. I learned all the things, and I'm still figuring stuff out. But it was great because I met a lot of amazing indie authors, but there was a lot um, who just don't understand audiobook production, and so you have to handhold a little
Yeah.
or train, so to speak. I'm like, I know what it's like. I don't have a clue what it's like in author world, but let me tell you what audiobook production world looks like. And then trying to negotiate and navigate. I don't take acting notes once I've started recording. We do all of the give me every note you ever want to give me before I hit record, but otherwise, you're just micromanaging, and I'm not making enough, and I don't have that kind of time, and this will never get done. So I'm like, you've got to let go. And I had to learn that side of it. I had to learn the business side as a narrator
Right.
and how to be better communicator to the authors. So one, I'm not pissing them off because I don't want to offend them,
Right.
right? But at the same time, I need to know my worth. I need to know my own business cold. So when I tell them, no, ABC means ABC, and this is why, so they can go, oh, I gotcha, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For sure.
So that took time for me. And I was in the ACX world solely for 3 years. And then in 2017 is when I got started with publishers.
Okay. So you mentioned Ashley earlier, and you've
Yes.
got a book that just came out October 28th, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
How was that going from, okay, I've been reading all these audiobooks now. I've been reading for Ashley, and now we're co-writing this book together.
That was pretty special. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so backstory for those who don't know anything about me yet.
They know a
um,
whole bunch. They know almost 45
well,
minutes
yeah,
of you now.
right, but
Right.
fair.
Yeah.
Very good point. You got me. So Ashley and I, she was like the second person to ever hire me, which was super exciting. And we have been in 2014, and then we have been doing a book a year ever since.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it really is. And so we've been partners. Her being an author, me being one of her narrators forever, and we became really good friends through that. And because especially when you're working with indie authors, you if you're lucky, you really get an opportunity to get to know them and they get to know you, so that you can really trust each other and learn about what it is that needs to be done for the audiobook and understanding their world and all this stuff. Plus, I'm a book nerd, so
Right.
I'm happy to have all those conversations, which you don't get that kind of time working with publishers. Um, so, Eternal Beauty is the book that she and I co-wrote. She was lead author. I'm more like her mentor, but so she was a lead author, and she's done like 32 books. So she's one of those, like, I don't know why you're not famous. She's so good. If I were to ask for a Christmas present, Hanukkah, any kind of New Year's, any kind of birthday present for the next 30 years, please people buy her books. She's so good. That's all I would ask. Um, she and I did a book. What it was supposed to be her last book. It was the one just before Eternal Beauty, which again just came out last month. It was called Reclamation, and she told me, I'm retiring. I She had a lot of life reasons between, like, taking care of her mother, and she was just wanting to get close she's closer to retirement, and also very frustrated with there's so much out there, especially with self-publishing, that it's hard to break through the noise, right, to
Right.
get noticed. And she's so damn good. But, so she's just like, "I After this book, I'm done." I'm like, "Okay." And she had said that to me prior, a previous book. Um, and she said, "Okay, you know what? I was listening to your stuff and you inspired me for one more book. And I swear to God, this is my last book." And that was last year. And that was Reclamation. And it was an amazing story. And I loved it a lot. And it was kind of horror and YA horror, but still, it was horror. She and I like kind of dark theme stuff. And so she's like, "I swear to God, this is it." I'm like, "Okay, yeah. But wouldn't it be cool if you and I wrote a young adult book together? I'm just saying." And she was like, "Okay, fine. I swear to God, this is my last book." And it really is, because she, like, told me yesterday that she finally, like, shut down her author page on Facebook and her website, and so she's, like, for realsies. Um, so, so she had written a short story, a long time ago, um, that is mm, I would say, again, math, I was gonna say 1/4. I don't know, a decent chunk of what this book is about, Eternal Beauty, but then, it was with 2 characters, Barbara and Claire, as the main 2 characters,
Okay.
and I'm like, "Okay, well, we're gonna make it a young adult story instead." So, I mean, it's also still horror and thriller and paranormal, so it's kind of all
Yeah.
genres bushed together, and uh then I'm like, "Okay, well, let's talk about social media. Let's bring in Bridget, who starts at age 6 and then ends the book at like age 18, 19, and go through how social media and the beauty industry and how we all wear masks and the consequences of searching for eternal beauty, kind of, and dealing with trauma." So it just kind of kept going after a year, just building, and we're like, this is exciting. Yes, let's actually do this. And then so it took us about a year, and then here we are.
That's
And it
awesome.
was It was so much fun, and I just remember getting on the phone with her and just laughing and then sharing stories and then, you know, just back and forth the whole writing process, which was new for me because I wrote songs. I'd never written like a
Right.
novel. So yeah, it was super special and something I'm gonna keep with me forever.
Do you think it was something that was easier for you because you have done so many audiobooks and you grew up reading and you've done a lot of reading? Do you think that made it easier to write without having, all of that focus in writing prior?
Yeah, I definitely think it helped a lot. Especially when it came to the dialogue. I was a big with contributing with the dialogue
Okay.
because for me, I was hearing it.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, "How would I say this?" You know? And so I'm like, "I want this to be," and I was hearing, "Okay, this is Bridget when she's 7. This she wouldn't be saying these, like, big, massive words that the author's narration, because it was first person narrative. Um, so I would just keep writing by based on the age, because that's what I do in my work as a narrator. And so I felt that that was really easy to just dive into that, which was kind of cool. I basically handled Bridget's sections because there's 3 different main characters now, and they're separated by different chapters per character. So I feel like that, yeah, that helped a lot. And actually, most of the time, what I found out with my peers, fellow narrators, many have become authors because we're just so used to storytelling that you start to get a rhythm. You start to almost like subconsciously, subliminally just get
Yeah.
stuffed in. Well, like, this is what I know is good and bad. And let me see if I can't figure out how to do this myself because I've got things I want to say. And just find me someone who is an amazing copy editor
Yeah.
who can then help you with like
All of that stuff. Yeah.
the technical stuff and the stuff that we don't quite understand in that world because it's the first time for us. So yeah, I think so. It was a good question.
So I asked this to Luke Daniels because he wrote a book as well, and then he
Hmm.
audiobook narrated it. And of course, sometimes he has people that goes over and, hey, could you fix this? Could you do that? And I don't know to what extent you have that. But when you were going through this book that you helped write, did you have more or less of a challenge doing the narrations because it's your work?
Mm. We'll just say there's 2 of us, 2 narrators, me and then Marnie Penning, who
Okay.
is brilliant. She took over, Claire and Barbara,
Okay.
who are the older characters, and she's just got this more, I mean, she comes from theater as well, but she comes from Shakespeare, and this
Oh,
woman just can act her face off, man. She's so good, and she's really good with diving into really, really, chaotic, deep, and dark emotions that these 2 characters brought. And so I only did Bridget, but I did Bridget from 6 to 19.
okay.
And it's the first time I've ever read a book this many times. I mean, I read this book 30 times, over the course of writing it and then proofing it and proofing it again and again. So I just knew it cold. So in some ways that can trip you up because like when I it's hard for me to read for pleasure now, which sucks because I'm prepping it in my head,
Yeah.
or I'm working it. How would I do this in my head instead of
Right.
just diving into the story? So sometimes you can already think how you might want it have go, and you don't leave yourself open to how it feels in that moment in a more extemporaneous kind of read when you're living in that millisecond of time as the story goes because I've just know it cold. So thankfully I had the time to I didn't have any crunch time with it. I could take my time and I redid a whole section of like 26 pages because I didn't feel like I felt like it was just too canned. I'm like, I can do better. I just feel like it was in my head prior of what I initially thought it could be. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I need to do it
Yeah.
differently because I didn't like where I took it,
Yeah.
you know? So I would say, it was kind of a 50-50 positive, negative kind of push and pull, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you going to do another book? Are you going to write another book?
I'd like to. I don't have any stories going on in my head at the minute,
Okay.
but we shall see. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it would be fun, but I would definitely be like, "Hey, I know you're retiring, but can you just kinda tell me if I'm crap or not by myself,
Yeah.
Ashley?"
Yeah.
You know? But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think that would be fun. I'm really proud of this book, not only just because it was just such a cool experience and with Ashley, and I'm a massive fan of her work, but also with the topics and the commentary we were besides it just being a thrilling, kinda interesting story, but, it also says something. Not
Right.
we're not trying to be, like, political or anything, but it does say something. It does
Yeah.
have social commentary. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go,
Yeah.
people. Go check out Eternal Beauty. Just came out in October. You can get it right now. Right now. Kindle, hardcover, paperback, audiobook, all of those things. You can go ahead and get those. We'll put the link down in the descriptions as well as the link to Andrea's website. Your website, andreaems.com, correct?
That is correct.
And people can find you on social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things. Facebook / Andrea Emmes Narrator, on Instagram at A Emmes Narrator, and on TikTok at Andrea Emmes, correct? Did I get any wrong?
No, you hit them all good. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep the same exact, like, AMs or Andrea M's because there's this amazing fashionista in Brazil named Andrea Emmes, and
Oh,
she got to it first, so that's why I have different ones, but yes, you hit it
I
perfectly.
understand. I'm the same way. I have a feel where I'm like, I gotta put a number on the end. Son of a gun. Or this thing doesn't take underscores. Oh, so I feel
Yeah.
you there. I feel you there. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and we're gonna do some live stream Q&As here with our live stream audience in just a moment. So everybody who is in the live stream, please stick around. Feel free to throw your questions in the chat, and we will get to them here in a little bit. But first, coming up, December 8th, author and podcaster Nathan Lowell returns. He is one of our most popular episodes. He's author of the Golden Age of the Solar Clipper series and The Wizard's Butler, one of my favorite books. We're going to be catching up with him December 8th, and that podcast is going to hit podcast feeds on the 9th. Also, December 23rd, hitting the podcast feeds. Game designer Rodney Thompson is going to be joining us, so you can catch that and all of our other episodes. Of course, down the road, audiobook narrator Gerard Doyle, Effenbird's author Aaron Reynolds, so many more. We've got a huge list coming up, so please, please, please stick around. Follow, subscribe, rate, review. It helps us, and in turn, helps our guests. So, for Andrea Emmes, I am Nick, and I want to thank you all for listening to Epic Realms.